You tried to change, you failed. You've picked yourself up, dusted yourself off, and you're ready to try again. But how do you make sure things go differently this time? How do you make sure you're not spinning your wheels only to fail all over again? Well, here are 5 tips to actually make this time different. 5 tips to give you a better chance at success when changing your behavior. I think number 4 is the most important, but the video wouldn't make sense in that order, so. My dog is really distracting me. Ducky, you can't chew your bone in here, bro. Number 1, first let's get the most obvious point out of the way. Don't do things the exact same way you did them the first time. If you want things to turn out differently this time, you'll need to change up your approach. Most people who try and fail to change their lives, to change their behavior, will try again, but they'll try in nearly the exact same way they did the first time. You failed a class, so you simply retake it. You gave up on exercise, so you just started trying to exercise again. You fell off a diet, so you just hop back on the diet. And therefore, it really only makes sense that you're likely to fail again. I'll try harder this time, you tell yourself. I have more willpower. Oops, take it down a notch. I'll try harder this time, you tell yourself. I'll have more willpower this time. See, usually when we try to change and we fail time and time again, we think that the reason that we fail is due to our levels of willpower. So then we try again, but simply by doing the exact same thing that we did last time. And if you recall that famous quote, doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So what do you do instead? Well, you tinker. You tinker with your approach. You tinker with your strategy. Strategy, not willpower, is the key to successful behavior change. So your first move when trying to change your behavior after an unsuccessful attempt should be to change your strategy. How? Well, first, you break down the goal a little bit. In order to do things differently, you have to know what you're already doing. And most importantly, you have to have an idea of exactly where things went wrong. Tip number 2, do recon. To gain a sense of where things went wrong last time, you'll need to do some recon. And to do this, it can be helpful to think of yourself as a sort of behavioral designer or an engineer. An engineer starts any new project by briefing themselves on the scope of what they're trying to create, and from there, they can construct a blueprint. Your behavior can actually be viewed in the exact same way. By thinking about all the pieces that come together to create the behavior that you want or don't want, you can plan, strategize, and design for the outcome that you're aiming for. This is part 1 of adjusting your strategy, blueprinting the daily processes and routines that make it up. Break down the change you're trying to make, the goal you're trying to reach, or the behavior you're trying to change into the specific steps that get you there. I'm talking about everything that comes before the behavior you're trying to change. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. He calls it your systems. He says that rather than focusing on the goal, you should focus on the systems that lead you to this goal. If your systems are well constructed, you'll succeed. If they're not, then you won't. Since you've already tried to change but fail, take a look at what you were doing previously. What is the step-by-step process that got you to where you were? Let's take exercise, for example. Say you'd like to start exercising consistently, but every time you try, you fall off track after just a few weeks or days of trying. A rough blueprint of what your process of getting to the gym looks like might be this. Go to bed early, wake up an hour earlier to work out, drive to gym before work, arrive at gym, choose workout. From here, it might already be immediately obvious which parts of your chain are weak and causing you to struggle. Perhaps your current system involves waking up an hour earlier to work out, but doesn't involve going to bed any earlier. That would be an obvious flaw in the design of your behavior. Or perhaps it's the getting up early that's the problem. You're trying to go to the gym in the morning, but that requires you to get up earlier than you've ever gotten up before. Your gym habit is influenced by the process that comes before it. You need an earlier bedtime, you need to get up earlier, and then you actually have to get to the gym. That's a weak chain. It's a really bad design. And because we don't normally think about our behavior like this, we can have bad designs all the time that are leading us away from our goals and we don't even know it. But you can really only know that if you do some recon on the systems, on the strategy that you currently have in place to reach your goal. And if you want to learn how to design effective behavior change strategies, check out my behavior change course, How to Change. Learn how to take control of your behavior and break bad habits using a structured system. Link in the description box. Tip 2B. Find the inflection point. Evaluating your systems is really just the first stage of recon. What you really want to do from here is find your behavior's inflection point. The inflection point is this. It's the exact moment where the direction of your behavior starts to change course. When you went from making steady progress and forward movement to a sudden pause or a slow decline and then an eventual regression away from your path. If you're trying to change something and you're not getting the results that you want, ask yourself, where did it all go wrong? What is the precise moment that things started started to change trajectory for you. The moment you went from successfully pursuing your goal, getting closer and closer each day, to creeping further and further away from it somehow. If you can find the inflection point, you can prevent it from ever happening. In order to find inflection points like this, you'll need to practice self-observation. You'll need to bump up your level of awareness of your daily behaviors. You'll need to reflect and think deeply about where things really went wrong. You may need to mentally pace back through the chain of events that led you to falling off track in the first place. But the inflection point always exists, and it's always possible to find it if you're willing to do a little bit of digging. I know it's my own tip, but I feel like that is a fire tip. Tip number 3, now design a new strategy. With your blueprint in mind, it's time to create a new strategy. Now, when you failed at changing previously, you may not have had much of a strategy at all. I had never thought to think of my behavior strategically until I started studying behavior change, and I was like, it actually makes a lot of sense. Like I mentioned earlier, most people don't really have a strategy other than willpower. I always thought that was the only thing you could really do. You just try harder. We don't really realize that there's so much more we can do than just try and force ourselves or will ourselves to do what we want to do. If you can create a successful strategy, the outcome, the behavior, or the consistency that you're looking for will be the result. To create a better strategy than last time, to create a better process than last time, start by taking a look at the weak points in your previous strategy. How can you tweak the chain to make the behavior that you want to follow through with as easy to execute on as possible? The easiest strategy is the best strategy when trying to change for good. If you want to stick with something new or something that's been a struggle for you previously, make sure this time you go at it differently and you make it as effortless as possible to do so. If we go back to our exercise example, the easiest swap would be moving exercise to a different time of day. Perhaps our example person isn't a morning person because they're an evening person. They feel more energized in the evening. Creating an evening-based exercise regime would immediately eliminate the weak parts of their strategy, making it a way better strategy. Now, that doesn't mean that the new strategy doesn't come with its own set of issues, but as long as it makes the behavior easier to execute on, it's immediately a way better strategy. It's already an improvement on the old one. In addition to the obvious swaps like the one we just discussed, we also want to think about all the other ways that we can make our environment and our lives to make it easier to achieve the goal that we're looking for, that we're aiming for. A solid strategy involves building a highway to a behavior that we're trying to cultivate or a wall in front of a behavior that we're trying to eliminate. Tip 3B, build the path of least resistance. Your new strategy should embrace the path of least resistance. The idea that we're hardwired to always look for the laziest, easiest, fastest, most convenient option in any given situation. To your brain, the difference between a wall and a highway is very slight. The tiniest little differences in environment can and will impact your behavior. If you want to make things different this time, consider all the potential bumps in the road and how you might eliminate them to ensure nothing gets in between you and what you're trying to achieve. So with our exercise example, we think about all the different ways we can make it easier to get to the gym. For example, choosing a gym closer to your home or workplace, choosing a time of day that's most convenient for you, finding exercises you really enjoy so it's easier to want to work out, plan your workout in advance so your brain doesn't have to think about what you'll do last second, have your gym bag packed and prepared, keeping visual reminders of your goal to exercise, consuming media related to exercise to keep the behavior top of mind, making plans with a friend to exercise. Simply put, we want to make it easier to do desirable behavior and harder to do undesirable behavior. Also, yes, I know that this is in Atomic Habits, but before Atomic Habits, it was really just behavioral science 101. These are all different things that reduce the amount of friction between you and exercising. And it's not just about environmental friction, it's about the cognitive friction, the friction of having to think about what you're trying to do. Just think about your brain as the laziest thing on earth. Your brain loves taking the path of least resistance, so use that to your advantage. Knowing this, set up your life so that the path of least resistance leads you to where you want to be. And don't underestimate how lazy it is. When I say put a wall between you and a behavior you don't want to do, that wall can be as tiny as putting junk food in the basement instead of in the cupboards. It can be putting junk food in the back of the fridge instead of the front. Your brain actually enjoys conserving energy, so let it kick its feet up while you design your life to facilitate your success. Tip number 4, eliminate the should. This point is actually so important that I wanted to put it first, but it made the video really confusing. One of the best ways to ensure that this time is different, that this time you're successful at reaching your goal, is to eliminate the should. Make sure you're not trying to change from a place of I should do this. So many people attempt to change from a place of I should change. I should eat healthier. I should quit smoking. I should start reading. Take should out of the equation completely. What do you actually want and why. You should start working out. Okay, why do you want to work out? Drill down to what you actually want. Get to know yourself and your own needs. Ask yourself who you are and where you're going in the future and how this habit fits into that. What value does exercise provide you? Why is starting to work out better than not working out? Why is it important that you start working out today and not 5 years from now? How are you going to feel if you never start working out? Take the time to actually figure out what you want and why before jumping into action. Get everything out on the line. Figure out why you actually want what you want. Should is demotivating. Want is the most motivating thing in the world. Cultivate the desire to do the thing that you need to do. Desire, anticipation, excitement, craving. That's dopamine. And dopamine is the molecule that gives us the drive to work for what we want. And those emotions are pretty much the opposite of the emotion that we associate with the word should. Doing something because you should do something is like throwing a wet blanket over the fire of your motivation to do it. The fire resists at first, but eventually it fizzles out and dies. And you might be thinking, well, I really only want to do this thing because I know I should. So now what? Don't do it then. I mean, you don't need to do it. No one's forcing you to do it. Now, when I said that, either your heart dropped and you felt annoyed or you felt relieved. If your heart dropped or you felt annoyed, you do want to do it because there's something on the other side of that behavior that you do want. People, animals, we don't work for nothing, okay? We work for reward. The more attractive the reward, the harder we're willing to work. Find and keep that sense of reward in front of you. Figure out why you want the change, why you crave the change, why changing this behavior is the best thing that's ever going to happen to you. Then live in that headspace. No more should. Don't be wishy-washy when you try to change. Actually want it. And not just the outcome, the behavior itself. The more you can recognize that the behavior is so essential to the reward that it is the reward, the more you can get yourself to want the routine that leads to that reward, the more likely you are to attain the reward itself. Think about the way you're currently thinking about the behavior you're trying to change. If your thoughts are blah, your results will be blah. But instead, if every time you think about the behavior that you want to change, you think about it positively, you think about it in terms of the value that it holds for you and your life, and you can then live in that headspace, change will not only be way more likely, but way more fun. If you're quitting smoking, every single time that you refuse to smoke, you can consciously remember to feel excited rather than deprived, you're winning. If you're trying to eat healthier, if every single time that you make a healthy choice, you pat yourself on the back, you feel great about what you're doing, you get excited that you did it, you remind yourself that this is what you want, you're already winning, you're already there. Lean into it. Look for all the positives. Notice when the behavior feels good. And realize that every single time that you do the thing that you said you would do, your behavior has changed. You are that person. Tip number 5, keep a change journal. Keeping a journal to reflect specifically on the change you're trying to make is such a game changer. A change journal really gets you in the right headspace to change something on so many different levels. First off, it encourages you to think about the change you're trying to make as your own personal project. Like we just discussed, change should not be approached as a should. No one cares if you change. Okay, some people probably care if you change, depending on what the change is, but nobody cares if you reach your potential, okay? In every instance, it's something that you're doing to make your life better, and it should and can be fun. But it really depends on the way that you think about it, your mindset about the whole thing. Is it a personal project or is it a should? Is it like kind of a burden to you? Now, obviously, I'm pretty biased because personally, I'm always trying to optimize myself. Not that I'm anywhere near optimal, but I'm always trying. And I find pursuing my personal project of my behavior, of my health, of my knowledge of the world, I find pursuing those things to be such a fun and fulfilling way to live life. And I think a change journal really keeps you focused on what you're working on. I think it's the quote unquote examined life. It's a place to reflect on where you are and where you're going, what worked and what didn't. It also keeps the change you're trying to make top of mind so you don't just kind of forget and fall off track because you're unfocused. And also, it's a great source of knowledge for recon. Like we talked about in the earlier steps, the more information you have about what's going on when you're trying to change your behavior, the easier it is to change. The easier it is to avoid obstacles and pitfalls and to learn from your mistakes so you don't repeat them. And in particular, if you're trying to change something that you failed a lot at previously, having a change journal, just a place where you're constantly reflecting on the change that you're trying to make, can be an extremely valuable source of knowledge for you on that quest. Tip number 5. Okay, so that's 6 tips, bro. What the hell? Tip number 6, stay committed despite setbacks. If you're watching this far into this video, you have experienced some failure. And maybe you feel a little beat down from previous attempts, from not making as much progress as you'd like. And that can really start to erode your belief in yourself, your relationship with yourself, your belief in the importance of the value of making this change, your belief in your ability to make the change. It can start to eat away at you in a way that makes it hard to keep picking yourself up and dusting yourself off and continuing to be willing to try. But the thing is, when you're trying to change your behavior, failure is so much so a part of the program, but it's what you do with that failure. Do you learn from it? Do you start to anticipate your inflection points in advance? Do you go back to the drawing board and treat failure as evidence that you might be missing something? Do you take it so personally that it sends you spiraling into a near depressive state for 2 weeks before you're ready or willing to try again? And the solution to this problem is just to adopt a different mindset about what you're doing here. Think of your own behavior the way all these people who are creating these addictive apps do. They don't take it personally when they don't manage to addict you to their apps. They go back to the drawing board. They tinker, they try a new strategy. And with that attitude, sure, they might not get each and every one of us, but through persistence, through asking questions, through tinkering with their strategy again and again and again, they're able to successfully addict millions of us to their apps year after year after year. And you too can cultivate the attitude of a behavioral designer. Assume you don't have all the answers. Assume it might not go according to plan, but be prepared to tinker until your lifestyle turns out the way you want it to, because you can get it there. And that's why I think thinking of changing your behavior, changing your lifestyle as your own personal project is so valuable. It's just a different sort of mindset about the change that you're trying to make, because we can all change. Any behavior can be changed. You just have to have the right strategy. Lean in, get to know your mind, experiment, play around, journal, reflect, and you will get there. And as most of you guys know, the whole reason that I even have this channel is because I personally have struggled and tried and failed to change my behavior my entire life. And I still don't have things perfectly the way that I want them, but I'm committed to the game, to the project. And as a result, I exercise nearly every day. I eat healthy almost every day. I read, I get up early, I journal, and just like 5 or 6 years ago, I could not get myself to do any of that stuff. So change is possible. Final cute inspirational quote. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. If you like this video, you're gonna love this video. This video on self-discipline might be the most valuable video I've made of all time. The comments on it actually blow me away, so check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.